walk in there with a water wagon, the water on.
Couple of them maybe it's now they up and growing there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it can be, if it's,
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
it's a regional collaboration.
One third there, like me.
All right, folks, let's go ahead and kick off this meeting. Open the meeting at 1:30. This is the Public Works Subcommittee meeting. And the roll call, we have, looks like we have everybody here listed, and also with the addition of one of the public, Mr. Richard Green. Let's move into B. Is there any public comments?
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to point out that there's a kind of a sidewalk obstruction. If you tripped over it at any one time, it's quite a sidewalk obstruction. The log that's on the sidewalk right in front of Tian Yuan has been there since the last tenants put it there as part of their rustic decorations. And then it was moved away from the side of the building on into the side where the planter is, and it's been in front of that planter since COVID. I mean, really, it's been a long time. But it's not part of the city's plan, and it maybe can be used somewhere else, like for seating at the dog park or something.
I think that has come up before, and I guess the case of private ownership.
I
Who
know,
owns it?
that's
Who
the
does it
thing.
belong
Who
to?
does it belong
Does it
to?
belong to that restaurant?
It was placed there, it was by the previous resident.
Yeah.
Like stated, so, and I'm not sure, we would have to go ask 10 yen if they inherited private ownership of that, wouldn't it?
That's a good idea.
It's a nice lawn. I mean, it's.
Yeah.
Great
it-
bench here somewhere, because that's what it's used for now, right? It's the bench.
Well, it's really where the bench already is
Right.
with the planter boxes, so it's kind of redundant where it is.
Okay.
Anyway, it might be able to be used somewhere else, or the city can auction it off to the highest bidder or something like that.
Thank you, Richard. Anything else?
That was really the one thing that I thought that I should mention. The other things are maybe a little bit out of your realm, but the kiosk at Wolf House was put in during COVID for a very important reason, but it's starting to look a little long in the tooth. And maybe we need to have some discussions about what to do with that kind of.
The parklet?
The-
Parklet, where people are eating outside?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Parklet, yeah.
I know they have their seating outside,
Okay.
but they, we added that as a desperate measure, really, and it's certainly helped them stay in business. But whether it's redundant now or not, I thought. And the only other thing is, maybe I'm being too picky, but if two people are walking by the Bella Moda hair salon on the sidewalk, one of them's brushing the vegetation, because the vegetation is really hanging out over the sidewalk. And in terms of vegetation hanging on the sidewalk, these plants at the La Tequila are a bit of a kind of an ongoing problem, I think, even though he's done a lot of work in the last couple of weeks to remediate the danger of those spikes. It's maybe not the best plant for that spot. Because it's gonna be an ongoing, it's an aloe, I'm not quite sure what the root call it, it's those are spiky little buggers.
I think that's would be especially Bella Moda down there. I'd be talking to the owner down there. I think that's private. City doesn't have any
Yeah,
jurisdiction.
well, it's the city sidewalk.
Anyway, is it on the, which side of Bella Moda? Is
On the Main Street side.
on Main Street?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of an offset on the second Broad Street side.
Okay, so it does curve around to the vegetation
It
onto,
curves around, but there's an offset of some
Okay.
gravel.
primarily impeding sidewalk on Main Street.
that-
Okay, we can take a look.
Pleasure. And the agenda looks so great, I thought I'd stop.
There you go. More than welcome. All right, any other public comment up there? I see none. Okay, let's move into C, communications. Is there any written communications anybody's received?
No communications, President.
And then D, for any motion for approval of previous February 27, 2024 minutes. Motion to approve, anyone?
I'm happy to make the motion.
Second?
Thank you. Mike, did you get that?
Yeah, no, it's for the subcommittee, we actually don't need a motion or a secondary, it's just a formality, so as long as no one is against them, they're approved as submitted.
What?
Yeah. There you go. Perfect, thank you. All right, and let's move into E, new business. Number one discussion is the Clark Avenue rehabilitation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, Councilmember Walter. The intent of the item on the agenda today is to really give you an update on the progress being made on the Clark Avenue rehabilitation project. Just by reference, background, this is a project that the council authorized on what's referred to as your SB1 project list. So it's one of its primary funding sources is SB1 or gas tax revenue. We bring that list forward annually. And this represents our current projects. Given the funding constraints within the SB1, we can only really carry out one project about every 3 years. Our previous project was North Washington Street. Included in your packet is the project plans. I think they're at is it the 50% level, city engineer? And joining us today is our city engineer, Vanessa Apodaca. She's been coordinating with Coastland, who is the project engineer of record for this improvement project. So she's going to provide an update. And I just want to mention that in addition to this being a street project, because it's a reconstruction project, we will also and are also planning to improve some of the storm drain, water facilities, water laterals, make some wastewater improvements. And last but not least, as needed, some storm drain improvements, or at least there will be some lid facilities, as they call it, low impact design. So with that, I'll turn it over to our city engineer, Vanessa, to give us a more detailed update.
And so just kind of going back into refresh memory, we're looking at rehabilitating the section of Clark Avenue between South Street and all the way through the Blair Street intersection, which is in front of a little pocket park there. I can't remember what the name of that park is. Park, go figure.
That's a pretty long distance.
It is a fairly long distance. It's much needed. And so we did bring it to you to recommend whether we also include upgrading the water infrastructure underneath and looking at the sewer infrastructure. And so we did settle on some portion of replacing older water line, in addition to doing some rehabilitation on some sewer manholes out there. And we just got the 50% plans back. We got a 50% level cost estimate back. And I think, the project's moving along very well. I think the only kind of outstanding issue that the design team was waiting on were some kind of pavement section information. But I think has that been given to them already?
Yes.
Okay.
So they cut, the Public Works group cut all the locations. We're just waiting to get through this next rainstorm to do the excavation and measurements.
Perfect, okay. And so, yeah, it's looking pretty good, but I think once we get the design underway, then the next little bit would be to wait for the SB1 funding to build up enough where we can put the project out to bid and get into construction.
Yeah, 'cause I think last time when we were talking about this, we made the decision to look at that water infrastructure and all that. There's no point in covering the old stuff and bringing it back. Okay, gotcha. I'll make sure we're on track.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact limits, but I feel like it was between South and a little bit north of Alter Avenue. There was newer infrastructure put in as part of this apartment complexes. It's some development that happened up there. And so it's not replacing the entire segment of it, but just the old stuff.
When did am I getting this confused? For some reason, I thought there was FEMA money involved with some of that.
No, that's Allen Avenue.
That's Allen,
Which is in this neighborhood,
right,
but
okay.
yeah, not.
Allen's quite a ways farther
Is it?
south. Yeah.
Okay,
And David, when did we submit our SB1 list?
That's forthcoming. I think the deadline is the end of June.
The end of June, okay. Because we promised, that alley off of Lake Street, that we would put that on the list, or at least I'll make the recommendation that we do that.
Rocky Dale, you mean?
Yeah, no, not Rocky Dale, on the other side of the railroad.
Up by
Lake Street, the
Mhm.
fellow we met at his house.
Is that live?
Live oak, thank you, live oak.
And did we say we were putting that on the SB1 list?
Yeah, I
Oh, it's gonna, the SB1 list, not to deviate too far from the topic, but it will go to council with staff's recommendations for SB1 projects, and council, Councilmember Walter is asking that the Live Oak project be added to the SB1 list, yeah. It'll be up to council to prioritize. I think we, in addition to Clark, we have, on the list,
Jefferson.
North Jefferson Street, so. Again, just to, measure expectations, these are multi-year projects, and kind of getting back to, or following up with, city engineers, overview. The preliminary cost estimate right now, in total stands at, $1,415,000, and some change. Of that, about half of it is roads, and then the other half, the additional, $76,000 is a combination of, a sewer and water, with the majority of that being, replacement of the water main, as well as, associated improvements to laterals, and backflow devices and abandonment of existing lines. So there's quite a bit of, improvements that, would be necessary to the water system. We have a lot of the, asbestos containing, material, pipe, and we'll be replacing that, or propose to replace that with, PVC. So the good thing in terms of the cost estimate is, or at least, a portion will be picked up, half of it will be picked up by our enterprise funds, because those improvements, are specific to our enterprise. And then it's really about making sure we build up the fund balance in our SB1 fund to cover this expense. We can, of course, discuss whether there's opportunities to, close the budget gap with other funds if appropriate.
Isn't there some way that we could, I mean, the SB1 funds, what are they totaling now? A little over 100,000 a year?
That sounds about right. I have to get a current update.
It takes us so long to save that money to do a project. By the time we get around to doing it, it's maybe deteriorated even more. I just wish there was some way we can bond against that, or have a pool of money set aside to do that, or I guess there's no grant money out there anywhere. Vanessa, I always ask about grant money, and, but it's a shame we have to wait so long to get the projects done.
There will be a discussion at the Finance Admin and Police Subcommittee about a potential, a tax measure focused on road improvements. So that will be an opportunity to address, additional funding for road improvements.
Anything else on that one?
Just, and maybe Vanessa, you can talk about next steps now that we're at 50%. Or is the kind of the next, is it 90, or are we looking at something at 75? And what do we suspect in terms of timeline?
I believe the next steps are a 90%. Coastline's been pretty quick to turn the stuff around. Once they get the information from the city. And so I'm sitting on a set of draft red lines on their 50% plans. I hope to get that out to them here a little bit later this week. But I think the next thing in their scope is 90% plans, and then give us a final chance to comment on those. And then it'll be done. We'll get technical specifications, final set of plans, And then it's just a matter of waiting until we've got funding to do the construction.
And the challenge on waiting is we know it's hard to predict the market, but often the reality is that with time, you build in a cost escalation factor, so it's rare that the cost escalation factor is negative, it's usually positive, meaning the cost increase, the price of doing the work is gonna go up. So we want to balance what it's gonna, as much as we can, and look at, is there a way to fund any gaps in the project before the costs go up too significantly, but that's the balancing act for.
It's exactly what you're just gonna say. The longer we wait, the more, prime example was the tanks, and not that it's on the agenda, but that was, I'm just using that as an example. We saw how that goes, and that's kind of with every project these days, I wish we could lock in price and say, hey, you settled on this, we're waiting 2 years, but here's the price, then
Right,
what happened?
and I mean, the other aspect too, and sometimes they're right on target, and other times what contractors bid in terms of their unit prices come in significantly different, and we try to use the most recent bid data to kind of inform the cost estimates, but the materials market's always changing, whether it's asphalt, steel, what have you, so it affects directly the bid prices, and it's kind of also how hungry the contractors are, how aggressive they are, how busy they are, what's going on, so and then we might be able to seek some alternatives here, in terms of I mean, one of the reasons I think our local contractors have done very well in terms of committing is because mobilization costs. Is in this budget, it's $77,000. So if you can reduce that, there might be the difference in whether you get the bid. Because again, we bid to the lowest responsible bidder.
The developer was a great example of that.
Right, so.
Mobilization of equipment.
And traffic control, again, it's another expense, so it's anyways, we'll proceed, no direction needed at this time unless there's any feedback the committee wants to offer, but we just wanted to do a check-in and give you that.
I know, and this, I'm not even sure if this is the project, but I know the mayor said he was talking to some paver, I'm not sure, I'm just grasping at straws here. He mentioned that he was talking to a local guy or something that could do it for, there was a lot of cost that was less than whatever he was working at Angles. I don't know if he's brought that up to any of you folks.
You're not thinking about that new technology.
No, that's Pine Mountain. They're gonna use that on Pine Mountain. This was some, I know he mentioned at a meeting that he had some local guys or knew some people that would do roads, but I don't think anything, so.
Use some numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I'll gather a little more info on that. I thought he might have mentioned it, maybe I'm the only one.
And this one will go out to bid, formal
Yeah.
bid, so. Again, we open it up, we
Mhm.
encourage all contractors who have the means to perform the job to submit their bids, and we will review them and make a recommendation to council, so.
Anything else on that item? All right, let's move into the North Jefferson pedestrian facilities.
Okay, included in your packet is a design drawing, kind of hand drawn, but I want to compliment our planning commissioner, Melissa Spangler, who brought this request forward to Kevin, our assistant city manager, community development director, via the planning commission. And we since referred it to this subcommittee for review. Ms. Spangler has kids in the Cloverdale Unified School District, and also resides in in the North Jefferson area. Interest in establishing crosswalks on North Jefferson. The drawing concept that was submitted includes crosswalks at the North Street, and I want to just point out, North Street is really more of a private driveway for the school, as well as the north section of Champlain. And included in the request for the crosswalks is, a pedestrian indicator. And what we see is similar to what we have at the Healdsburg, South Cloverdale Boulevard intersection. It's a flashing LED. Not sure if that type of indicator would be appropriate in a residential setting, because those LED lights can be pretty bright. But we wanted to forward this request to the Public Works Subcommittee for review and recommendation. We've looked at this, we've discussed it. That there are some challenges with putting crosswalks in this particular area. Because it does trigger some additional improvements on the west side of Jefferson. It's not just as simple as putting in striping. It requires modification of the existing sidewalk to comply with ADA. And then there's also some traffic flow concerns when you put in a sidewalk that should be part of the conversation. Is are there other signage that's required or necessary, including stop signs? You kind of have to, not to say that you have to have stop signs in all crosswalks, but those are just part of the consideration. It's a little bit more than maybe what you see here. And then there are some staff has some thoughts that wanted to share with the subcommittee in terms of maybe how to address, at least the underlying concern is, again, pedestrian safety, particularly school children that are walking, from the baseball field or from on Champlain and accessing the west side of North Jefferson Street. So I don't know, Derek or Vanessa, who wants to jump in here?
We actually went and looked at this today.
Okay, so yeah,
So,
sure.
This is the one up by the high school, right, on the
This is
West side?
Jefferson Elementary.
Jefferson Elementary.
School Street,
Okay, gotcha,
it's up by Daily Field.
gotcha, okay.
Yeah, it's not,
You, okay.
right now, so she's asking to comment. We're the way the agenda is written is to not permit public comments. So that would be your discretion, Vice Mayor. Again, it's noticed as such that we don't provide public comment, but acknowledging that she was the requesting party for this particular item.
And who is this?
Our planning commissioner Spengler, but as David noted, our agenda does state the public can't. However, we haven't adopted an official policy with more direction from the mayor. So as the chair, you do have the right to allow it. But note that for this meeting, I would suggest if any other members of the public join, that we would also allow them to have public comment virtually.
Right, I think that she has come up with this, and I think it'd be a good idea to hear from her, so let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. I think Mike can, okay. Melissa, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Ken,
Awesome. So this is kind of multifaceted, and I think that we've had quite a few accidents at this area of people trying to make the left turn out of what's North Street, but it's really the driveway from Jefferson, and people exiting that when there are cars parked right up against that driveway. People can't see oncoming traffic. And I see a lot of close calls almost every single morning because people are pretty much winging it, especially if there's a bigger vehicle parked there. So I think that the first thing that could probably be done right away is enlarging the red zone on each side of that North Street exit so that oncoming traffic can see if somebody's pulling out and vice versa. That's probably the biggest, most urgent concern. I don't know how many accidents there have been there, but I see it all the time. People are really just going for it because they cannot see past other vehicles that are parked there. That's the first thing. And then, yes, then the kids, usually parents are walking them across the street. So it's not the hugest deal, but we get a lot of softball games back there as well. And I believe Little League plays back there sometimes too. So it's a really busy area with no crosswalks currently. And as I was pointing out, I don't know that we need two, but one would be ideal. I don't know if Champlain is the best option. I mean, it's logical because there is a street there, but then kids still, if they walk across the street there, still have to walk in front of that North Street with people trying to make that quick left turn and see traffic coming, which they can't really see. And then they've got little kids walking in front of their vehicles too, because the sidewalk down Jefferson is on the north side of the field. It's like right along the field there. So yeah, that's a summary of my observations, but it's been something that's been on my mind for a while because I've seen a few accidents there and a lot of close calls.
And one thing to note for the subcommittee is the residents here has a 6-foot fence. That runs along Jefferson and it turns down North Street. So there's nothing wrong with that per se, but what it does is it creates a visual barrier for a person that might be walking or even a car that's turning, because to get out and be able to adequately see down the street.
You're out into
You're out into North Street. So
Now, is that fence set back like it's supposed to be according to for Cloverdale?
Well,
Do
the
they have
triangle doesn't really apply there because it's not a city street, North Street, that section of North Street is
That's pretty much
private.
right. Got you. Okay.
yeah, but the vision triangle is
Right.
obstructed. Because the fence is built at that 90-degree right angle there, so, and it's 6 foot tall. It just makes it very challenging, I think, if you're driving an automobile, you try to look left and you have kids walking, you're not gonna be able to really see them very well in that.
And they don't have like coming off North Street there and going on North Jefferson where where Melissa has the red zones. Are those there now or did?
Yeah, but they're small, we can extend the
Yeah,
red zone on the south side of that little section between
Yeah.
North Street and Champlain. We can extend that all the way to that cut curb, that driveway there. And then we can extend to the one that's
I mean, that seems like the quickest, cheapest fix right now.
Yeah.
And then
correct.
how things go from there, you know?
Well, something else, not that it's really gonna affect what we're talking about, but keep in mind that North Street, that private street that's supposedly owned by the school, is also on the emergency exit evacuation plan of the city.
Yeah.
People that are along North Jefferson are instructed to take that road out of there, so. I didn't know how that affects things.
Yeah, and I know that there has been some talk through the school to making this back area an additional like official drop-off zone, so that could exacerbate the traffic that's back there as is. But I think I agree that the
they're making
quickest,
a drop-off zone, a second one in the front, aren't they?
okay,
I think they have plans to do that, but they may be doing the extending the bus drop-off.
okay. Well, like, I don't know who pointed it out, but it was along the same lines as me, which is the quickest, easiest fix or the most immediate thing that can be accomplished is extending that red zone on both sides so that there are not now additional cars blocking the view of people trying to exit out of there.
So I think, Vice Mayor and Chair, I think our staff can fairly readily extend the extent of the no parking zone on both sides of the North Street driveway. And you may want to, just for consideration, we can refer this to the school district and to see if maybe there is some additional signage or other improvements that could be made on what we call North Street to, reduce vehicle speeds, acknowledge oncoming traffic, pedestrians.
Well, and when we did the state of the city, Wasn't the superintendent talking about a whole new plan that he was gonna do for, like you're saying, for a second bus drop off or turnaround or whatever? I don't, is this incorporated in that plan?
No.
Any of this area? Okay.
Well, so, it's the front of the school.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in discussions with staff, that may alleviate some of the drop offs in this area if they improve the drop off conditions in the front. But we won't know that until after it's constructed.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I'd like to do is extend those for the quick, cheap fix right there, extend them out, see what that does. And like you said, push it to the school district and say, hey, what do you guys, I mean, what are we doing about this?
Yeah,
Here's our fix, cheapest, what do you got going for, like I said, signage or?
yeah, we can get those curbs painted.
On both sides of North Street.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
On both sides of North Street, and then the kids I think they're out this Friday, right, for starting spring break. And so
Yes.
it should be, we'll have it in, before they get back from spring break. And like we viewed the area today, the biggest worries is where those crosswalks land, you have to have cut curbs,
Right.
right, truncated domes. And then you do have to have red curbs in a certain area, right? So we would pretty much eliminate the parking in front of those homes.
Yeah.
In that area.
Well, I know on the weekends that place is a zoo back there.
Yeah.
With all the ball games going on, and people parking all over, so. See how it works.
Yeah, and there may be, maybe the school district's amenable to just a flashing indicator or something that draws attention to pedestrians, since it would be ideal if it was on the school side.
Mhm.
But I don't know, maybe we can provide an example of a product or something that is feasible and safe.
I just know it's definitely err on the side of caution with the kids, you know what I mean? So.
And I know when we look at those flashing signs, we'll make sure that they're not gonna be flashing in anybody's window.
Yeah, that's the downfall, putting those
Right.
in there.
But they might be able to put one on North Street facing east, possibly. I don't know. That's something to look at.
Anything else? Melissa, thank you. Got anything else?
Nope, that covers it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank
Thank you,
you.
Melissa.
All right, take care. Bye.
All right, so that, we decided we're gonna have the city go ahead and do those extend the red? Yep. Okay. Quickest fix to them. All right, anything else on that, or do we want to move on to the next item?
We'll just kind of backing up on that. for a
Okay.
minute. Now that I sit here chewing on that. We're gonna let that house on the corner know that we're gonna be striking that.
Yeah, I mean, we can give them a door hanger and let
Yeah.
them know.
I think we should.
Well, the only thing is if people are doing quick drop offs or pickups there.
They're gonna be parked really.
Exactly. I mean, guilty as charged. I'll pick my kids up. If that was the spot, I was in a red zone, get in the car, let's go. So you know what I mean? Hopefully people follow it, but I mean, there's got to be a way to monitor it. You know what I mean?
I mean, if you really wanted to go, you could do like if it really became a problem, I would be more apt to put like a class 4 bike lane there. Up that street. That's a protected bike lane, you can't park there anyways, kids riding their scooters, bikes to school, I'd be more inclined to do something like that.
They would eliminate parking along
It would.
Yeah. So we're trying to.
But those
it
would
would
eliminate
eliminate
all
all
spots.
parking.
That's the only problem. Yeah.
It's the challenge of, we have an active recreation facility,
Right.
pedestrian mobility
Mhm.
and residential parking. And so trying to balance those out. and
Yeah, no,
balance between the different uses.
Yeah, I think red zones are probably the best bet for now. To see what happens. Anything else there, Gus?
Nope, I'm good. Thank
All
you.
right. Number 3 is downtown decorated lighting.
Yeah, we agendized, staff agendized this item, Vice Mayor, after discussion, I think, about the lighting that was installed for the holidays.
Right.
And we saw a lot of interest in the community of bringing additional lighting into downtown. Obviously, we do that every year, it's quite a labor of love by our streets department to put up Christmas lights on the boulevard. But we also know that the community, brings some festive cheer to our downtown. But the other component to this is that, our decorative streetlights, while they look great, they're not particularly great at illuminating the ground surface. I think there's an interest, and I know, Chair, you kind of brought this to light as well, that, maybe there's an opportunity to look at some more type of commercial type of permanent lighting that could be installed that, again, better illuminates at least our downtown corridor. Whether there's some seasonality to it, I don't know, but there are lights that are made to be utilized, year round. We're seeing this happen throughout the Bay Area.
Upgrade the existing ones.
Yeah, Healdsburg, for example, is put lighting on their bridge on the southern boundary to kind of illuminate that feature, and the community enjoys it. You're seeing it with the Bay Bridge. In those cases, those are bridges, but it's the fact that people enjoy the lights, and there's a certain attractive element to it. With that said, it comes with a cost, obviously, purchasing the lights and then maintaining them, and ultimately installing them. So that's where we want, staff would want, a real robust commercial type product.
Well, and I looked into a lot of these, and all day long you can find the Christmas lights, but then you replace them nonstop. So those were kind of out. I found a big commercial version, which was the ropes, and they were actually had the ability to cut them to fit them to length and all that. But then you buy all the accessories to fix that end after you cut it, so that's a huge cost right there. So it wasn't even doable. It was ridiculous, the cost on it. And then I started looking at all the streetlights, and I thought, wow, this is huge. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna have to do. I'm looking quite a bit for it. It's tough to find them that will match these style streetlights right here. So
Something for us to consider. We did have additional lighting in the plaza, that's strung from the arbors. And again, whether it's something the year round, we probably want to make sure it doesn't conflict with maintenance activities. But those seem to be well liked, and it brought kind of additional lighting to the plaza. So, that might be something as we look at a pilot project,
Right.
and do a smaller area, and, maybe it's just the focus of the plaza and the lights there, just to bring attention to that area versus, a larger, the entire corridor.
So we have, if I'm understanding it, we have two problems. Illumination at night as it is now,
yes.
and then some type of decorative light that would serve both purposes. But what kind of light bulbs do we have in the lights now? Are they halogen, or are they just the old traditional light bulbs?
We have, we're replacing them with red and LEDs.
And
And
do
then we
they,
have some sodium bulbs there.
what?
They put in light, but it's the function of the fixture, because the fixture is a fogged lens. Right? And they don't, the lights kind of back up inside of it, so it doesn't cascade very much. It's not like an open street light.
Even with the new.
Yeah.
halogen.
Yeah, as much light as we could put in there, those fog lenses just break it down so much.
At one point, and we're talking 10 years ago, now, the first director at the time was looking at changing those 8-corner looking lenses to get something that's not just a bright one, and put an LED light bulb at the time. Because like Derek says, put the LED light, and it just hardly ever gets any light.
Right. So where did that in?
I don't remember, but I know it came up during one of the committees.
Yeah, we have some. I did find some documents on like the retrofit heads, but they couldn't get the ones that fit on our poles exactly. There was one ordered and it wasn't an exact fit for kind of a, so I think they kind of settled with it, a replacement program.
Yeah.
You want like ambience kind of thing, not just.
Kind of like the Christmas light.
Yeah. like
The whole reason for it too is everybody from, is like, why are we taking these lights down?
Yeah.
It just looks charming down here. I agree, it does, and everybody loves it, but at a huge cost, like I said, the lights I was finding were ridiculous.
I can reach out to, Calistoga has them all year round.
Yeah.
Petalilla's got some in town, Pillsbury has some, I can reach out to their public works.
Yeah,
And see what they're using.
So I like the idea of putting them on the awnings in the plaza.
yeah.
You know, I mean, that just lightens up other areas. But as far as leaving the decorative lights on year round, I mean, it loses some of its advertising when you hit the holiday season.
Right.
Unless you get the fact that it can change color. Maybe you do like a red and white, flashing.
Well, I mean, just because they're up, and if we purchase a robust enough ones, just because they're there doesn't mean they have to be on all the time.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, I got you.
So, it does save an immense amount of staff time, taking them up and
Oh,
and putting them up and taking them down. If we had something we could leave there for,
Yeah,
2-3 years
Yeah.
and then replace as needed.
remote control, you
Yeah.
can do it from the ground.
Yeah.
And the other part with the Christmas lights is they're relatively, low technology, so there's no, it turns off when the sunlight comes
Yeah.
on. They're plugged in, they're on.
Yeah,
It's not a big energy cost because they're just, Christmas lights. But if we were to do a commercial product, we'd have probably a sensor on.
Yeah,
With,
they automated.
well, we can
I would say,
research it.
I would say keep that on there and let's talk about
I'm gonna
it.
bring
Carry,
it back.
carry it over to the next meeting, yeah.
And Vice Mayor, are you okay? We put it, maybe we can, park it under streets.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
as we get more information, we'll bring it forward.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a fellow in town that just retired from Williams Electrical down at Airport Boulevard. He's into lights, needless to say.
Yeah.
He's a good sounding board. Blue. This is-
All right, so we're parking that one under streets and we'll move on to the cemetery columbarium.
All right, this item came at the request of, one of our very favorite volunteers, Al Del Cid. He is taking the role of being, a real caretaker for the Cloverdale Cemetery. And of course, representing the Legion has done a tremendous amount of improvements. Every year we budget, usually around $5,000 to assist with a volunteer project that's going to make improvements. This year, the focus was on the road and improving the road, and he brought a lot of volunteer work to that effort. And he's always, again, seeking opportunities to make the cemetery more sustainable. And he brought to our park staff, both Kevin and Hector, the idea of installing what's referred to as a columbarium, which is a structure that could be used for storing the ashes of our beloved individuals. And the kind of the costs associated with that, just for the purchase of these types of facility, is about $100,000. That doesn't necessarily include the costs that would be necessary to support the foundation system and any other kind of ancillary improvements. The idea being that these are spaces that can be sold. I think they hold up to about 100.
About 100.
As they call them, nests, if you will, and of those 100, I think some of those can be double, so.
Double-sided.
Double-sided, so does that make it 200? But just depends on how they're purchased. But this would kind of open the cemetery up for opportunities for the folks to bring their, to have a place, a resting place for their families' ashes. And Yeah, we all think it's a great idea. We've put this just from a budgetary perspective on what's called the discretionary list. Given the capital costs, you know, it's a new project. And, you know, it definitely has merits. It's just a function of, you know, paying for it and then, you know, we get recouped over time, based on, you know, selling those spaces, but I'll turn it over to Hector. I know Hector and Kevin met with Al. There'll probably be some additional costs associated with just improving the site.
Yeah, just a quick correction in, not to be nitpicky, but Al represents the Sons of the Legion. You know, not the Legion, but he's involved, we're kind of commingled there, but he specifically is Sons of the Legion. Him and Bob Cox are undertaking this more than anyone. Okay. So,
Thanks, David. So Kevin and I met with Al the other day, and he had another idea as well to have like as a pilot project, which would be like an 8-column double-sided memorial columbarium. And so it will kind of look just like the one I passed around, but it'll be eight columns on each side like this. So it'll be 8 columns on each side, and that's the price for as a pilot project for one of them. 13,339. Of course, this is not including like the site prep and Kevin and I and Al went out there the other day and made a little site visit. And it looks like we might have to do like a small retaining wall, some grading to do.
Where do they want to put it?
So when you come up on right above the BG's,
Mhm.
family, crib, just go up that road.
Yeah.
And then you start coming up on your left-hand side, there's a flat area.
Yep.
And it's the only flat section on the cemetery. It's like roughly about 60 by 40. And so that would be a spot that we would have to go in there with, and grade it and maybe put some kind of retaining wall. But if we were gonna do a pilot project, we might be able to install that one towards the hillside. Just to see what it would, what kind of interest we get from the community. One of the things that Al brought up to us was that we needed to talk, which we haven't done yet. It's on our schedule of things to do, that we needed to talk to the local mortuary. Just to get some information, to see how the whole process works, because we really don't know how it would work. And so that's the next step. We need to set up a meeting with them and talk to them. But this image right here, I just remember, is what it would look like as a 8-column side by side each side.
Hey, Hector, can you show that to the camera since it's new information for the subcommittee? I have to show it for the record.
I've been talking to Al about that location.
Yeah.
And asking him if there's any way we can move it down more towards the K gate.
Yeah.
For the simple reason, you're gonna get a lot of folks that are not gonna be able to make that height. And if they want to get inside, then they have to come somewhere and get a key so they can go up there and visit. So if we can move some of that down, not impeding on the Veterans Memorial, but maybe just past that a little bit on the right-hand side, it might work. So he's looking into trying to move it closer, which may cut back on some of the prep costs.
Yeah.
So, but
What I can do after the meeting, I can reach out to Al, and then we can set up another site visit.
About,
what about the cost? What's a retail sticker on a little crypt?
And that's one of the things we were gonna get the opportunity to talk to the mortuary here in town to see how that works. Cause I know they take some kind of percentage. That I would think that they would take a certain percentage.
$1,300, so 1,100.
Well, if we're doing 100,000, if we're spending 100,000.
Yeah.
And there's how many crypts?
I think there's
100?
100 of them.
What does that pencil out to at 1,300?
Well, I mean, it's.
Yeah, it's about, it's
Be a problem.
it's a break even.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, 30,000 you spend in prep costs.
Right.
So, but anyhow, just kind of thinking ahead.
what about where, to your point of people not walking up there, where the memorial is now, where, and then you have that hillside right there, roads going up the hillside off to your right. If you're doing prep, wouldn't it be just as easy if you have to do a retaining wall to move it and cut into that hillside? If you're doing a retaining wall, just put a retaining wall on the back, similar to the one that's there right now, and set this thing right there going up the road. Then you have the Veterans Memorial and then it's Columbarium or whatever right there. I mean,
Yeah, we can talk, there is, he did say there's a possibility of, we didn't look at it, but he said there was a possibility of another site right above there. There's like a little road that shoots out to the right. Yeah. So we talked about it.
I mean, site prep is site prep, but if it's quicker and it's closer to the gate,
Yeah,
let's keep it as close as we can, you know?
yeah, we'll talk
Yeah,
about it,
and I'll try to get a better hone in on what
Yeah.
it's gonna cost.
and we'll bring it back.
Yeah, but you know, I'm in favor of just getting out of Hamlin's way and letting him go, you know, I mean, this baby, that whole cemetery, he loves it,
Yeah.
and, whatever you guys work out with him.
Yeah, him and Bob are gonna do, they're gonna hit the ground running on this.
And we're gonna bring this forward, as part of the budget discussion with council. We can certainly inform council that this has been discussed. You know, any refinement work between now and the budget workshop, we can bring back for an update. For example, if we go with a smaller, lower cost item, then, you know, that would reduce the capital outlay. Because we will have to pay for this with general fund, so it's a general fund. Of course, it reimbursement over time, but it, you know, comes with, those fee comes with staff time, you know, working with the families that, you know, may want to intern their family's ashes.
All right. Any other comments on that? Are we done with that one? We can move on to the standing items. Item F and parks update, Soda Springs and Porterfield open
So
space.
just a quick update on Soda Ranch Springs, or Soda Springs Ranch, with council's approval, submitted a letter to the board of directors of the Ag and Open Space, which is the board of supervisors, requesting funding for, or under the, what's called the Initial Preserved Access and Operation and Maintenance Fund, or IPAOM fund. Our request totals about $2.1 million. Most recently, we received a request by Supervisor Gore to set up a meeting to go over that with him, as well as district staff, so that we can all be on the same page, and you know, really outlining, you know, what the purpose of the funding is, just by way of communication to them. We've sent it to multiple parties. The most recent request, we highlighted that this is the preserve funding is so critical to be able to, you know, open up the open space to the community. It's critical for quality of life, the health of our residents and citizens, as well as part of our, you know, part of our overall economic development initiative here, given its proximity to downtown, and you know, bringing folks to our wonderful open spaces. So we'll have more to report once Supervisor Gore gets back to us on a meeting date. But the hope is we're gonna get support, and that we'll have hopefully we'll have a timeline for when the district staff can bring it before the entire board of supervisors. I know my sense is that Supervisor Board is 100% supportive of our funding requests. It's just, as all these items do, they require the full board, and we just want to make sure that the district staff supports our full funding request. And you know, once we get that, we you know, we'll be able to really initiate, you know, the planning exercise of doing the work to get that preserve open for public access.
And one thing I wanted to do, and I mentioned it, and I don't know, but they have for all that big funding requests, I know we need a lot of stuff, but I've always kicked around throwing in a skip loader. Or because, you know, you can do any type of roads, and it can be used, tied into open space, but use it throughout. You know what I mean? It's just a handy tool for everybody to use, and they're running 45, 50 grand for a brand new one. And then it's like the, it's like the Leatherman of, you can use it for anything.
Right.
So
So,
one of the, just, thanks for bringing it up, it's in there.
yeah,
I did
Awesome.
add, I added under tools.
nice.
It's in there, there's, additional, I think it was $50,000 for tools. And another $30,000 some dollars for a side by side. To total trailers so we can do maintenance up there.
Right.
And I agree with you 100%. As far as grading trails and moving trees out of the way during, the springtime, is the best tool available that can really save the city a lot of money in a long period of time. Hiring contractors to do it in-house.
Did Supervisor Gore call you for the meeting?
He called the mayor
Okay,
and requested the email, which
so he flinched at the number.
well, I'm not sure.
Really?
I don't know if he flinched or he just wants to make sure that, the district staff who will be writing the report to the board of supervisors.
Has all the stuff. Has all the
Because
info.
if they come in with, half the cost or something,
Right.
An item like that often is on consent, it would have to be pulled, discussed.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's 100% consent by all the board. And
So hopefully that meeting will include a field trip out to the site. right?
yeah, we definitely want to do a presentation highlighting, all the things that we've asked for and why. One of the critical components we know is staffing, of course, and besides the cost to do the trail work. And just by way of background on this, what we're doing is we are breaking out the costs of opening up the park for public access in the budget over a 3-year cycle with the belief that we're going to get the funding. And so we want to budget as if we are getting the funding and budget accordingly and show that as revenue to offset the cost so that it's as much as it can be cost neutral to the general fund or other funds. But again, it'll be discussed in more detail in the budget workshop, but that's the plan. So we're trying to approach it with that perspective that the funding's going to be there to carry out the things that need to get done to open that up.
Alrighty, and potential park enhancements, number 2.
I don't know, Hector, Kevin, you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah, so we've been, as from that previous Ferber Park survey that we implemented to the community here a few months back. We had a lot of positive feedback from the community, and since then, park staff have been very busy trying to bring those, smaller investments that our current budget can absorb. So for instance, we installed and I brought this up last time, but just to give it a little quick update of how this is going. We installed a new doggy station. We installed a new bench, or I guess a picnic table near the pickleball courts. We added some recycled garbage cans, receptacles. This is some of the items that the community wanted. We did some creek restoration and access for viewing purposes only, not for going into the creek. And then just recently, we added a kiosk information center that has been actually very popular. The local leagues have been asking me to put their bulletins and their information from T-ball to any type of community event.
Is that glass, Hector?
It's a plexiglass. Yeah, I wanted to get it, make sure I got plexiglass. Yeah, I know my park's too good. So that's a big accomplishment in the park. And the next item that we're waiting for right now is the cornhole boxes. I followed up on it before the meeting here today, just to see where we're at. I knew it was gonna come up, and we're hoping to get them here within the next 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, they said. Once we get those cornhole boxes, we have 4 of them. We have a good location for them. Kevin and I and David have been talking about how we're gonna install them, and maybe add like a little bit of split rail fencing above it to keep players from traffic. Just little minor details. So,
Is that gonna be where the horseshoe?
yes,
fits
the
on?
horseshoe pits. One advantage of putting them there, that we already have a flat area. And it'd just be removing the existing, horseshoe pit infrastructure, moving it, and then adding the, court.
How about, this is for Mr. Bradford, about a bench down by the
Yeah.
pickleball court.
Yeah, so that's another, it's actually on the schedule for this week. So tomorrow, since we're gonna have some rain, normally when we have rain events, we try to kind of modify our schedule to do some shop work that needs to be fabricated inside the shop.
Nice.
So the intent tomorrow is to grab 2 of the benches that were removed from the downtown corridor here and paint them and repair the wood on them. And then hopefully go out there to the winery trail and install those 2 benches. This is actually one of what came up as part of the survey. Because
Nice.
folks wanted to make a big loop around
Yeah,
around Winery Trail and Hot Springs Road.
and he's talking down by, I know that picnic table's good down there, but when he gets his crew down there, he wants a bench down by that court too.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Well, it's been mentioned a few times.
Yeah, I know Javier started working on one of them already, so we got scheduled to put 2 of them, so maybe we'll put one at each end and then the other one we can.
There you go.
But at least it'll be a start of that whole big loop, because I guess one of the biggest items there on the survey was jogging. That, it was like 40-some%, where folks wanted to jog all the way around along the creek and down Hot Springs into River Park. So yeah, so we're making good progress on these updates, park enhancements.
Hector, maybe you give an update, on, the work also of the veg management.
Sure.
We kind of jumped over sort of Springs Ranch, but you give an update on the work you just recently completed.
Sure. Yeah, so, as part of the vegetation management effort that we have here with the city, now that we own Soda Springs Ranch, as soon as the community, found out that we were the owners now, then all the service requests started coming. And so we received a few, requests from folks at the end of Second Street, regarding the dead vegetation along near the entrance. So we moved quickly, with a combination of volunteer work and, the Northern Sonoma County Fire Fuels crew. We were able to address all the vegetation around the front and actually venture into the park. Chief Marshal Turio from Geigerville, he was able to donate 2 days of volunteer work. And of course, there was some funding there that we allocated, had a contract with them for just a small amount, it was like $8,000. So we was able to donate some labor, and then I also reached out to to AmeriCorps, National Civilian Community Corps, NCCC. I just basically gave them a call and said I need some help. And so anyways, they said, yeah, no problem, this is who we can do. So they agreed to help us out for 2 days, another 2 days of volunteer work of a crew of 8 to 10. And we really got a lot of stuff done. And so even though we just recently purchased the park, there's been a lot of effort between, park staff, volunteer work, and a little bit of funding there, just to address some of the injuries that are coming. And so there's a picture there, so that's a combination of the Northern Sonoma County Fire Fuels and AmeriCorps. They're up above. You can see all that dead vegetation right there. All that is gone. We need to figure out what to do with that trailer if anybody's looking for one. But yeah, and then as part of the AmeriCorps, we removed roughly about, I think it was 16 to 18 yards of French broom. We bought some of those weed wrenches, and I've never used one of those things, but they actually work good. You wrap it around a bunch of French broom and it pulls right out when it's wet. So we got,
You got that out now, because.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basic.
So we're doing everything we can with the little resources we have. And then just switching over real quick to Porterville Creek. The second dry burn was conducted here just a couple weeks ago. We sent out a Nexo alert to the community so they can find, just to let them know that, some smoke was going to be expected from this event. We managed a total of 15 acres that was heavy vegetated, just really dry stuff. And right now, when you walk into the park, it looks like a park. It's, and the whole intent of this vegetation management effort the last few years is I guess we create a fire break along the creek, just to, in case, hopefully it never does happen. Any fires come through there, we can protect our neighbors there, so. It's an ongoing process, it's gonna keep going for, for a while, and, yeah, we're making good progress on it.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge Hector's attention to the veg management, especially at Portville Creek. Given the concern expressed by the neighbors, building that fire break, reducing the understory up there, which is so good for the health of the ecosystem, getting a lot of the invasive stuff out of there. And to do it in a way that's ecologically sustainable. We had our tour, our annual visit by Open Space, and they acknowledged that all that work was done very well. And you can see it in just the impact it's had on the aesthetics of the park, and reducing fire threats, and then also just being good for the ecosystem. So it's good stuff. I think, what is this market now? Four
prescribed burns. At Portville Creek, this year was the fourth prescribed burn. So we've managed a total, 30, about 50 acres so far. And that's, again, that's a whole, I guess, that whole eastern side of the park. So that's creating that fire break all the way up to the top of the property.
50 acres is a significant area.
And it's like I mentioned earlier, it's a combination of another Sonoma County Particles crew that has a contract with them. We have a lot of eager volunteers. They go out there on a daily basis. And they're retired, they want to work, and they love the open space. So I, just take a moment to thank those folks, because without them, really, it would be very challenging for us to keep up with what we're working.
Hector, are we keeping our eye on Clark Park?
Yeah, Clark looks good.
Anything there? Nothing?
No, everything looks good. We're getting ready to, so coming up.
Drugs?
No,
No.
I mean, so far, we haven't gotten any report from the police department. Park looks great. Coming up here, we have Community Unity Day on May 3rd. The intent for Clark Park, as well as other different parks, is to add some playground certified wood chips around the park. And also, we're gonna scrub down the playground, because there's a couple trees around there that drop some stuff, so we're gonna get the kids out there working. That's always a big success for us, and it's a big help for park staff, because they do get a lot of work done. So the kids love spread and mulch, so we gotta do it anyways.
Do that.
Do it.
And we do have, Councilmember, we do have security cameras now, professionally installed and monitored by our police department. Security cameras at Clark Park, as well as Berber.
I think it's a big reason that there's one of the reasons why we haven't had, any issues out there because of the cameras. One of the things we've worked on, since we're on the camera subject, one of the things we worked on is to working with our camera with Ricotta Company to create an alert system. So when somebody at night walks through that line of motion, the PD, the police department, the monitor, it starts ringing. So that'll be a form of, so you're not sitting there looking at it the whole time. It's anybody between this, you can set it up between the time 10 PM till 6 AM. So anybody that walks through that line, when they're walking into the park, the phone will ring, or the TV will ring and alert.
We need to put a couple of those little game cameras now on the north end of Foothill. By the open space where we're gonna do the parking, that just got tagged.
The wall.
Yeah, and it does all the time, but that's the parking spot. That'd be a good one that flags for cars. I could probably tell you who it is, but.
I mean, now that we have the system set up, it's just a matter of adding cameras. Where Hector and Kevin have been working on getting the quote dialed in for the dog park.
Yeah.
We want to get the same camera from the Ricotta, so that it's on the remote. There's, besides just being able to monitor what's happening, it's also good from a liability perspective. So it's recorded, so the video can be captured if needed.
That's it.
Anything else? All right, streets, citywide striping plan.
All right, Vanessa, you want to catch in the middle of a text here? Our city engineer and our assistant city engineer have been working on finalizing the striping plan with our traffic consultant W-Trans. And what we determined is that it's really key that we phase the implementation, because we don't want to stripe certain components and then have to be redone if we do certain improvements. Our team's been working on with W-Trans a phasing plan, and again, the intent is that with the documentation they prepared, we can put these out to bid fairly quickly to get prices. But Vanessa, if you want to kind of talk about your the concept of the phasing plan and what are next steps.
Yeah, so just to kind of rewind a little bit and refresh, we're looking specifically at the entire length of the boulevard, Cloverdale Boulevard, Treadway and Foothill. And so Treadway and Foothill, those are relatively easy in that there's not really any near-term planned pavement maintenance. Cloverdale Boulevard gets a little tricky because certain segments are scheduled within the next 5 years to get a slurry seal. And so, you know, when David talks about the phasing plan, we're specifically looking at, you know, optimizing maintenance funding for slurry sealing the boulevard. And, you know, the last thing we want to do is go slurry seal over some brand new striping. And so I think Derek and I are going to work. W-Trans is putting their plans together in such a way as to facilitate whatever phasing we come up with. And so the next thing, I think Derek and I will work together to see, you know, what's appropriate, how to phase in the boulevard striping, which areas need, you know, slurry and striping sooner than later, and see how we can optimize city funds and resources and, you know, get some meaningful striping work in these very trafficked areas.
So did I hear 5 years?
Well, so, and I say 5 years because we have the pavement management report, the PTAP report. And so when that came out, they really look at kind of an immediate 5-year horizon. What road segments need to get maintained within the next 5-year horizon. And so that's why I reference this 5-year horizon, because there are several segments in the boulevard that came up in this, they need to be slurry within the next 5 years.
Well, you know, I whine about this all the time, and here we go again. The striping on Cloverdale Boulevard from 3rd Street down to Lake Street. You go to park in front of the plank and you can't even see where the white hashes are for parking. I mean, can't we get somebody out there with a roller and a gallon of paint and have them freshen those things up? They're already marked where they are, they just need to be brightened. The same with the dots down the middle of the highway. You know, I don't know what type of potential liability that could have for the city if we let things like that fall by the wayside. But from Lake Street to 3rd Street, I can't imagine it would cost that much. And that street is in such good condition, I can't imagine when we'd ever be paved and all that. For sleary season.
Sure.
But I'd like to take a special look-see at that section and see if we can't stripe it. I don't know if you've ever seen it when you try and park. It's really challenging.
Yeah, I think the parking tees are relatively low hanging fruit. And largely those can go in as paint. I don't know if those need to go in as thermoplastic necessarily.
We can work that into our, or this summer's striping program.
If we want to go back with the real good stuff after it's slurry sealed, that's fine, but just some paint.
And so we did finally provide comments back to W-Trans on their, I believe they submitted 90% plans. We had no comments on their technical specifications. And so I suspect that those are gonna be coming back to us, pretty quick, and hopefully we can get some lined up for the summer.
Allen Avenue.
Allen Avenue is still on the FEMA. I met today with our new rep Gloria with FEMA. And they exchanged their representation out after a certain amount of time on a project, so she's still online to see us through to the end to get the full funding to kind of to have just that bulb out in the Allen Avenue area repaved. So we're looking at somewhere around $55,000 that we're gonna get from FEMA.
And they don't have any timeline on it, or?
Just not really. I mean, I still have to refine some things with her, but they like to do all these projects in a whole. First Street overlay, not really any update on that, just want to make sure everyone realizes that that was brought to the subcommittee and you guys okayed that it was a grind out, a 3-inch overlay. Put that out there. No update on the Crocker Bridge, they should be, once the sun comes out, they should be hopefully putting up the summer bridge, and once that's up, then they'll be finishing the pedestrian bridge. Yeah, moving on to water. Drought relief water system, I have no updates. You have any updates on that, David? Russian River Water Forum.
Well, it has been some recent developments. The water forum was a series of meetings to engage with the stakeholders in both Mendocino County and Sonoma County, and of course, water interests, to kind of start developing a planning program. After that process was kind of initiated, the water agency stepped up and established kind of its own kind of a separate program. Kind of, I think they were maybe reading the tea leaves of where the process was going, and had established a JPA to work with some tribal interests, as well as Potter Valley Irrigation District, to look at different alternatives to deliver water to both Potter Valley and Lake Mendocino, recognizing that there's a strong interest in removing the dams. And there most recently was last week, there was a technical advisory group meeting where there was a recommendation to proceed with what was called the pumping alternative, which involves basically pumping water during high flows out of the eel and delivering that via the conveyance system through Potter Valley into Lake Mendocino. Right now, that's the preferred alternative. That is again predicated that on the part of the decommissioning process that the existing dams are going to be removed or proposed for removal. Obviously, that's a big issue. It would take many years to accomplish, but there is quite a bit of work, at least for the water agency and those interests, kind of recognizing that may be the end result, is to look at how do you still support water deliveries to support agricultural interests in Potter Valley, as well as supply water to Lake Mendocino, again, reliant on kind of high water flows. There was a link to a presentation included in the newsletter that provides some pretty interesting looking drawings of the proposed pumping system, and they looked at different alternatives, and that's right now the preferred alternative is this pump system. Don't know much more than that in terms of whether that's going to be supportable from economic perspective, environmental perspective, and the timelines associated with that. But that's kind of what we're seeing develop, is these these alternative plans, to convey water out of the Eel River watershed and transfer it over to Lake Mendocino. It's pretty complicated. I've submitted a request, at the request of Mayor Lands, to have, a presentation before the council, providing an update. I think that would be valuable because we could ask the experts that are working on the design and, you know, what are they seeing? And I know there's a lot of, policy questions around the whole project, what's happening, and a lot of different interests. So, it's a tough political issue, but we're right now, it's kind of track and see where it's going, and follow it accordingly, so.
What do you think we're looking at to a final, this whole Potter Valley? I mean, years wise, 5, 10, till we come to a conclusion of something and.
I would think, the short time frame, you'd be looking at least 5 years, and
Okay.
It was like
in
20 years or something before it was fully finished.
yeah, and I don't know if the pumping system even involves FERC, because it's not a hydroelectric facility anymore. It's a pump system, so, you know, the FERC relicensing, now, part of the decommissioning process of the existing dams is FERC, the FERC process, but I think this proposal doesn't necessarily involve FERC, other than it would be an alternative to having a generation facility.
From creation to consumption.
That's what, what's the FERC process?
Well, FERC it refers to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And they are the federal agency responsible for permitting hydroelectric facilities. So the existing dams generate, well, the Van Arsdale generates electricity, so that's permitted under FERC. PG&E is the permit holder. So in order to decommission those, they have a whole bureaucratic process associated with removing those electric generating facilities and removing the dams. And I mean, the best example is probably the climate right now. That's and there's, from what I understand, there's a lot of lessons learned, because there was a lot of things that have been done, you know, that they've learned. Maybe there's better ways to do it that would apply here, but that's a many-year process. And we know politically, there's still a lot of different interests involved in that, so.
Just wanted to know how long it's gonna be on here. That sounds like a while. You just keep getting updates.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, there's just so much on water. When I went down to the Vanessa, and one of the first meetings with her, I mean, it takes 2 or 3 meetings to even develop a question. You're just being force fed with a fire hose down there, like, what? And I didn't realize the amount of stuff, so when we try to have an update on it, it's huge.
Right.
You know, so.
There's multiple factors.
Oh, yeah.
There's water supply, there's fish, environment, there's a regulatory process.
It's mind blowing.
User groups, interest
Yeah.
groups. And I think that the key next step for council is to receive a presentation from the folks that are actively working on
Right.
this every day.
Yeah, okay, good. And I don't even know then if we'll get it. You know what I mean, to be
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure
truthful
everybody
about it,
knows
it's tough to.
what the ultimate solution is going to
Right.
be, because it's still working its way through the process, and
Gotcha.
it's relying on a lot of different federal agencies and ultimately funding, who's gonna
Yep.
pay for it, and all those answers, or all those questions still have to be answered.
Wow, all
It
right.
is, though, it's a really important, project for the Russian River,
Right.
especially everybody north of the confluence, which we are.
Mhm.
So, for sure, you know, it's could potentially impact our water supply, definitely in low water years.
Anything else on that one? All right, number 9, update 6 acres mutual water.
All right, well, this, we should be able to, maybe take this off, I'm not sure, but we are bringing the annexation agreement forward to council. It's on the agenda, it's posted for council's consideration on Wednesday. This would, the recommendation by staff is to approve the annexation agreement. One of the key aspects of the annexation agreement that the council provided direction for was to ensure that as part of annexation, that there was funding in place to address both the water improvements as well as the sewer improvements. We had a meeting today. I think the water improvements are in the design phase. I think they're at the 60% level. And the current plan is to bring them to the 90% level. Sanitary sewer not in the same level of design. This is an issue where we have to, the way the state is approaching it is that they want the city to be the responsible entity for applying for the state funding to do the design and construction of the sanitary sewer improvements for both 6 acres and South Cloverdale as one project. And then that's a much more complicated project. I wish they were separate, because I think council's direction so far has been to move forward with 6 acres, subject to having sewer and water. The sewer is let's say it's not so clear because of the way the funding is, but we are, we're trying to make progress, and it's a multi-year time frame. It's been literally 8 years in the making to bring this forward to this stage. So it is a key milestone. If approved or supported by council, would authorize us to submit the annexation application to the local agency formation commissioner LAFCO for formal annexation of that area to the city. And so we did most recently. I want to acknowledge the strong advocacy of our city engineer for getting funding for our efforts. We're working on a cost reimbursement documentation for costs incurred, at least since the state approved the work plans of about 2021. So it's not going to, we're not going to be able to cost recover everything over the last 8 years, but maybe the last 2.5 years, especially our outside costs for the work that we performed. So we're going to submit that, and today on the call, we have a monthly call with the state, with a whole team of state funders. It seems overwhelming and sometimes when it's the 3 or 4 of us, and there's 12 other people there who are all pushing us to want to annex the property. But again, just trying to stay focused. We're bringing forward the annexation agreement. It's going to kind of create a path forward for annexation of those 22 homes, and ultimately that will once we submit it, it'll be in the hands of LAFCO to actually consider whether to approve that annexation. And there's still quite a bit of work to bring the water system improvements, the design, to finalize that, to get funding for the wastewater improvements, and to get that done in order to actually serve that area with the necessary basic infrastructure. This again doesn't address streets, street lights, drainage,
Sidewalks.
all the other things that we would normally ask for development. So that's just going to be, that's going to be a liability for the city going forward. Though we will be the recipient of a portion of their property taxes. So, and they'll be city residents, assuming they get put their station, so. I'll kind of pause there, there's a lot to unpack, we'll talk about it more, at the council meeting on Wednesday.
What's happening Wednesday is a big milestone for us. We've been working on this since I started here, so it's a nice milestone.
Get it out. And how much do you think we have financially into the project? If you had to guess,
In terms of staff time,
staff time, and
I mean, I would say probably at least 25,000, just time alone, if not more.
Yeah. Have we been reimbursed for anything from anyone that
Not
can?
yet, but we're about to send them some stuff, so.
You know, it's kind of like the state wants us to take the lead on the plans for the sewer on both South Cloverdale Water District and 6 acres. And South Water, I agree with you, it should be separate. We're not talking about South Cloverdale Water District right now. I really think, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care whether we annex it tomorrow night or not, until we get some commitment on the table on how much they're gonna pay us back.
Yeah.
You know, this is ridiculous. They make these mandates, expect us to take the lead, gobble up all the staff time, and they don't wanna pay a nickel. And neither does Gore from the county. I mean, it's ridiculous. So
And we, well, especially
I'll try not to get too hot tomorrow night.
our city engineer has been very good at conveying that message. I've been wanting to try to balance out the conversation, because I know that that they have the authority to mandate it if they choose. So we're pushing back. And sometimes what that comes with is offers to help. So it's kind of it's striking that balance. And I think we are poised to, we'll see whether the rubber hits the road if they cut us a check. We did confirm in the call today that they're responsible for paying the application fees to LAFCO. So, at least, there's movement on that, but,
Well, one thing is,
your comments, it totally acknowledged, Councilmember, we understand.
part of what's included in what they're gonna pay is the impact fees.
What are we talking there?
Well, I mean, it's, the impact fees is, what was it, for 10,000 a unit or something like that, and they're paying for the installation of all pipes but we are right, Gus, we're out of a lot of stuff.
I can remember sitting at this table years ago and
Trying to put a positive spin.
And the state folks coming down telling us that we have to do this, and it's kind of like, where's the check? And, well, that's not important, people have to have good drinking water. Well, I'll be damned.
Really close.
Yeah, and it's a real push to just ensure that we maintain all of the city standards with respect to extension and the infrastructure. But it's every call, every email, it's a challenge. We have to make sure and put our foot down and demand that we get what's required. So.
Well, yeah, and every nickel that we don't get reimbursed, our ratepayers have to pay when the rates for water and sewer go up. And that's the bottom line. The community is paying for this new project that the state wants us to do. That's ridiculous. Okay, stop me now.
Just get warmed up for tomorrow, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Wastewater, recycled water planning study.
Yeah, so we're getting ready to kickstart the study. We've received the what's called the amended plan of study by the Bureau of Reclamation, who is funding about half the work, $500,000 worth of the study. So we're reviewing that. We just got it on Friday, and the hope is that we get that buttoned up and we're in a position to move forward. We're still, we submitted a concurrent funding request to the state for the other half. Given the state's deficit, they've asked us to kind of revise and update that scope, which we brought it down about 300,000. So we're still working with the state on the state half. But our intent is to continue to move forward and advance that work, but, we're in kind of the paperwork phase at this moment.
Sewer manholes.
So MSI is moving through our sewer manhole project. They should be finished this week. They started the week with 2 left to epoxy and be done with. So that's good. And then we'll start scheming on our next large scale collection system project.
Yeah, this is really part of our annual sewer maintenance program that we do every year. And both acknowledge Jay and Derek for their due diligence and getting mixes. This already had an impact this year with all the rain in reducing the infiltration
Yeah.
from high groundwater flows into our manholes. They plug the holes, and so it's really good because it reduces. I mean, one, we're addressing what we know is going to be a regulatory requirement. We're kind of ahead of the game on this in a sense, by getting them, as many as them. We didn't do all of them, but we made headway. But it also reduces operational costs because all that water that's not infiltrating doesn't end up having to be chlorinated, treated, and disposed. So it's good from that perspective. So every year this is kind of the program we need to be on with our streets. It's just every year we do something and make progress. So good stuff.
Perfect. Public Works update.
Just a few things. We're waiting on we've been steadily meeting with the SCADA project with the water plant guys in West Joe's. We're gonna get a 95% back, and we'll probably give you an update then when we can get a better cost analysis on what's actually included and what we're gonna get. The flashing light at Hillsburg and the Boulevard has been fixed. Craig from our Public Works crew took care of that. We did a grind and a hot mix asphalt on Washington for the route.
Did that turn out good?
That turned out great. We're kind of in the middle of a kind of a retool type situation. We're gonna start kind of leaning more towards doing operations like that, a grind out and a hot mix overlay.
And I just want to say I'm real proud of Derek for getting the team adept at taking on these repair projects like that using hot mix. These are things like we hired a contractor on 2nd Street to do. The scope of the work that they did was kind of similar to that. So it's building in the expertise, and as part of the budget, getting more equipment so that we can tackle more of these kind of repairs in-house with our team. And we got a great team now.
Yeah,
It's
the
really,
team's ready and willing to tackle these big projects, and you'll see that we're gonna start with some equipment here soon, and some more fixes, and then you'll see it on the budget. You'll see it show up.
I know. My skip loader be handy. You can drag that hot mix right across there with that. It's part of the toolbox.
So yeah, you're gonna see a lot more hot mix applications in spots. It's just gonna help us prolong our streets, especially the really, really bad ones where we can't just come in and cut it all out. So we're gonna have to, segment it and do it ourselves. Our annual water reports due April 1. The guys at our water plant have been hard at work on that. They've almost wrapped it up. We're gonna meet on Thursday, go through some final details, and then send that off to the DWR, and then we should be good till next year. We're still working on the populating the list of mandatory reports for all public works department. That list is getting big.
How many do you think you're up to at this point?
We're beyond 50 now.
On an annual basis
Yeah.
or multiple times a year?
Well, some of them are like monthly reports, some of them are annual reports, but it's just all mandatory reporting that the city has to do.
So about 50, and we've seen them, especially over the drought, we've seen them really multiply the amount of mandatory reporting that we have to submit to the state, and often those come with a cost, not just in terms of staff time, but doing sampling, addition, you know, it's a cost that we've internalized.
Right.
And it does use quite a bit of staff time to do all these reports, so.
So we're gonna compile that. Hopefully I'll be presenting that, just kind of getting everybody apprised of what we gotta do for reporting. And it helps us make sure that we don't miss any of them.
Yeah.
We got all the letters last week from the county fire department for all the vegetation management that needs to be done for city-owned properties. So we've been knocking that out. I think we've finished all of them on all city-owned lots. Yeah, that's kind of just a synopsis of what we've been working on. So definitely more paving. We're gonna get that, and we're gonna roll into, once the sun comes out, we have STOPs and school crossings that we're gonna start burning down, and then we're gonna have the parking lines on Main, and then some out here in the Boulevard. And then airport, we have interest of people wanting to have 2 events out there this summer, which is great.
What kind of events, like,
Drive-in movies.
Local groups?
Yeah, the AV film has shown interest in doing an event out there, so we're gonna flesh that out and see if we can, where that goes. Mowing is gonna start in April. Once it's dry enough to get to the lower sections, we're gonna do everything up high by the runways. We did receive an email from the FAA acknowledging our city manager, requesting them multiple times to respond to our requests for acknowledgement of the use of our grant money. Working with the airport manager, identified a short-term project list. We're starting out with a lighting that needs to happen on segmented circle. That's part of the FAA request. Adding quite a few things to the budget this year for the airport to kind of bring a few things up to snuff that the FAA has requested, so.
Yeah, I think just on the budget side, because you're gonna see that when we bring budget forward, it's gonna look like there was a big increase. I say relatively big in the airport, but I think what part of it is a reflection of the work that was being done, but was covered in other budgets. So it might have been in the streets budget.
Right.
And so Derek's really focusing on trying to make sure that the costs are reflected in the appropriate cost center.
Yeah.
So, airport's its own enterprise, so we recognize if we're gonna probably have to backfill that with general fund, or that's gonna be the ask of council. But by the same token, you'd be backfilling the streets fund, so it's kind of one half dozen the other. And that way we have a better reflection of the costs in the airport enterprise. So
Yeah.
there's that, and then there has been a fair amount of deferred maintenance that it is necessary out at the airport. So appreciate that Derek's really trying to focus on the critical health and safety and elements, and we are working on one of our critical CIP projects is the what are called the PAPI lights in the REAL lights. REAL is REIL, and we proposed through FAA using federal funds for those, and we're just waiting for them to. With the environmental, we've done all the legwork. And Vanessa helped with doing an independent engineering evaluation, so we're just waiting for them to send us the grant agreement. And I've been waiting now for about 4 or 5 months. So
We want to get it done. We want to get these projects going.
Have we recently or anytime anytime in recent memory, have we done a hangar rent study comparing us to the other airports in the area?
Yeah, we're gonna start looking at the hangar rental agreements hopefully this year. and then, kind of bring everything back up, but our current rental agreement, hangar rental price isn't too far below standard. In some small airports, we're right there with them, so.
Because unless things have changed, it's always operated in the negative, so.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to get to where we have the airport, all the money that's actually spent there, we capture it. That way we can figure out how, what number we need to get to that break even spot or even get in the black. Because we just, we historically, it's just been as things needed, it was getting done and maybe it wasn't getting allocated in the right budget. So we have a finish line, we know how to get there.
And something that Derek's working on is, the schools in Jefferson, they're replacing the portable units. We're gonna see if, because their plan would be just to basically dispose of them. If we can relocate, if it's feasible to relocate one of those back to the airport like we used to have,
Right.
to use as a space for
Yeah,
staff admin, and just to have a city office space presence as needed.
yeah, if we could get a space for an office area and a base station, we really need that, and then we're supposed to have it there. And then, if we have enough room, we have had people saying that they would provide a ground school there. So if we could get that, that's revenue, right? Do you get a ground school, then you get more pilots, you get more for hangars, then you get them all rented out.
Well, we've got, I don't know how much you can actually use of the airport. How much of that empty land that you come in could be used for hangars. I know there's a lot of regulations where things have to be.
Yeah, and we're going over those right now, we're pretty good at squeezing every last penny out of it.
All right. Any future agenda items?
I just have, one thing, if we can get an update, maybe I missed it, but the treadway lights, the treadway street.
Oh, they've been fixed for about a month now.
Oh, they're working now.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We found the replacement bulbs.
So it wasn't a bulb issue, it was, the wires pulled in the conduit underneath the street.
Yeah,
They had a neutral had broken underneath there, so it was just the water and the jacketing issue. So we had those replaced and they're
good,
rocking and rolling.
And Derek, is it fair to say that was really a PG&E issue that caused it, or
It was an installation problem, they must have nicked the jacket and just got that, and that's just the wire in the wire rest.
Yeah.
So I can scratch that off my list and when my.
Yeah, so
When somebody calls me about this again,
Right.
tell them it's fixed, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it took a while, because it wasn't as simple as just changing out a bulb, it wasn't a bulb issue, it was the electrical work that required some troubleshooting, to figure out.
Yeah, finding where those wires were was the hardest bit, really. So yeah, that and the flashing pedestrian lights, those are the protects.
Thank you.
Okay, future agenda? Anything you want to add? All righty, let's call it adjourn the meeting at 3:17. Thank you.